Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast for Tuesday, October 17th, 2017. I'm Walter Johnson, the host of the High School Football Roundup podcast. Over about the next 45, close to 60 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about the region races and the playoff picture that accompanies it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. A good place to start would be GHSA Region 16A, and focus mainly on the regions that have at least one team from Albany, City of Albany, Dougherty County, as well as other surrounding communities and counties. And again, they're going to start in GHSA Region 16A, where the Lee County Trojans are on top at 2-0 in region play, 8-0 overall in Lee County. Won a thriller in overtime last week, defeating Northside of Warner Robins 16-13, and defensive struggle. And the only scoring in the first half was a 32-yard field goal near the end of the first quarter. And Lee County led 3-0, and that would be the score at the half up in Leesburg last week. And then Northside of Warner Robins grabbed the lead in the third quarter, led 7-3, and scored it. And then Lee County scored a go-ahead touchdown to make it 10-7 at the end of the third quarter. And then a 59-yard field goal from C.J. Munson tied the score at 10 apiece and forced overtime. And quarterback, and then Warner Robins' possession in overtime. And Munson and the Eagles scored on a field goal to give the visitors from Middle Georgia a 13-10 lead. But Jace Orndorff threw a 15-yard touchdown pass to Josh Asbury in overtime to claim the victory. And Lee County held Northside of Warner Robins to just 176 yards total offense, and won despite not gaining a single yard on the ground. And Orndorff finished for 270 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And Ty Terrell had 9 catches for 450 yards. Big win for Lee County. And next up for the Trojans, a trip to Valdosta later this week. And before moving on, and a quick reminder, you can follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter at SWGA Network. And there you can also go to the YouTube channel, and there you have the option of subscribing to the Southwest Georgia Network YouTube channel. It's easier to follow on Twitter, and not just with the games, not just with the High School Football Roundup podcast, and including previous episodes. You can also follow the live tweets of high school football coverage every Friday night, and from the opening kickoff to the final sound of the buzzer. And remember, you can follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter at SWGA Network. That's the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter at SWGA Network. And now back to Lee County for a moment. And Lee County, with the win over Northside of Warner Robins, now controls its own destiny. And a win in one of the final 2 region games would give Lee County no worse than a tie for the Region 16A title. But it's like the old saying goes, first things first. You see, and Lee County goes to Valdosta this week, and then after another bye week, they'll host the other team of Trojans in GHSA Region 16A, the Coffee Trojans out of Douglas, Georgia. And Coffee snapped a 2-game losing streak last week with a win over Houston County, 35-0 the final score. And this week, Coffee's at home against Northside of Warner Robins. And Lee County basically controls its own destiny at this point. And as long as the Trojans can take care of business, just get the job done. And then they'll be an undefeated region champion in the Region 1-6A. And Lee County is Lee County had never beaten Northside of Warner Robins before last week's win in overtime, 16-13. And going into last week's matchup, Lee County was let's see here. I think I'm looking at the wrong thing here. All right, here we go. From the according to the Georgia High School Association, Georgia High School Football Historians Association website, and Lee County had lost to 4 previous meetings with Northside of Warner Robins, and losing 41-0 in 2006, opening round of the state playoffs, and then when the two teams started meeting regularly in 2010, Northside won easily in the first meeting, 42-7 in 2011, and the Eagles won going away again, 45-7. Last year's meeting, a 26-7 win by Northside of Warner Robins, but the 5th time proved to be the charm for Lee County, winning and coming from behind to win in overtime, 16-13. It wouldn't surprise me that if both teams win the playoffs at some point, even for a state championship maybe, but first things first, and then you still have to take care of your business rest of the way, and they'll face a Valdosta team Lee County will face a Valdosta team that they've never beaten. 0-7 all time for the 0-7 all time for the Trojans from Leesburg against the Wildcats from Valdosta. And Wildcats claimed wins over the Trojans in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, and then after an 11-year hiatus, and the series resumed in 2014. And Valdosta's won 4 in a row on that side. Made that 3 in a row. And lost 3 in a row. Since the series resumed in 2014. And Valdosta and Lee County will hopefully the 8th time will be the charm for Lee County against this Valdosta squad. And then up until last week, as I mentioned, Lee County had never beaten Northside of Warner Robins. And this Friday, the Trojans will try to beat Valdosta for the first time ever. And they're going to try to do it in one of the toughest environments in all of Georgia high school football in Baysmore Stadium at Cleveland Field. And Valdosta's had a very rough year so far as the defending GHSA Class 6A state champions, just 2-5 overall and 0-1 in GHSA Region 1 Single A after a 16-7 loss to Northside of Warner Robins almost 2 weeks ago on Friday, October 6th. And Valdosta actually led 7-3 at the half, but Northside of Warner Robins held the Cats scoreless in the second half and cruised to victory from there. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of medal Lee County has. Not only facing the defending state champion, but also learning how to thrive under adversity. And again, I mean, it's not easy going down to Baseball Higher Stadium at Cleveland Field, or whatever you call it, and just come out with a win. And then again, this is a Lee County team that had never been 8-0 before last week either. So it'll be a tremendous challenge for this Lee County squad. And then you got Coffee and playing host to Northside of Warner Robins. Coffee 4-2 overall on the season, 1-0 JHSA Region 1-6A and Open Region. And Coffee, as I mentioned last week, Open Region 1-6A play with a 35-0 win at Houston County. And Northside of Warner Robins dropped to 1-1 in Region 1-6A play, 6-2 overall. And obviously that game has the feel of a playoff atmosphere down in Jardine Stadium in Douglas, Georgia. So, and I don't expect that game to be any different. And I'm going to move right along. And how about another region with one or more teams in Southwest Georgia, in Albany and Southwest Georgia, in GHSA Region 1-4A. And America Sumter currently leads that league, undefeated at 4-0 overall, 5-2 region play, followed by Northside, Columbus, and Cairo, both sitting at 3-1 in region play. And Northside at 6-1 overall, Cairo at 4-3 overall. And Hardaway and Carver tied for fourth place at 2-2 in the region. And the Hardaway Hawks out of Columbus, Georgia, set at 3-4 overall. And Carver at 2-5 overall. And then tied for sixth, Westover and 1-3 in Columbus, both 1-3 in the region. And the Patriots from Albany set at 3-4 overall. And the Blue Devils are 1-3 overall. And it's imagine that. And last week, Westover snapped a 3-game losing streak with a 26-13 win over Columbus High. And doing so, Westover avenged a loss from last year at Hugh Mill Stadium in Albany, in which the Blue Devils knocked off the then heavily favored Westover Patriots 40-29. And that came with Westover coming in and supposedly in good shape at 4-2 overall and 2-1 JHSA Region 1-4A action. And then that loss to Columbus started a 3-game slide from which the Patriots never recovered from. And this year's team, however, again returned to favor. And Westover wins 26-13. And the Patriots will try to keep the momentum going in this week. And then travel down to Cairo, Georgia on Friday to take on the Cairo Syrup Makers. And Cairo, as I mentioned, is 3-1 in GHSA Region 1-4A, or Quad A, if you will, and 4-3 overall. And seeing Cairo's been an up and down team all season, opening on August 18th with a 38-7 route at Thomasville, and then after a bye Central, and the Syrup Makers pitched a shutout 24-0 over the Yellow Jackets, and then Cairo followed up their win over Bainbridge to a 49-22 blowout loss to Bainbridge in their home opener. And then on September 15th, the Syrup Makers edged Hardaway 9-7 in a defensive struggle. And Shaw came next on September 22nd. And the Surmakers defeated the Raiders out of Columbus, Georgia, 30-7. And then on September 29th, Surmakers headed north to Americus, Georgia. And Cairo suffered its first region loss. And the Panthers knocked off the Surmakers 31-15. And last week's win over Carver Columbus, 24-13. And a nice bounce back win for Cairo. And I think having said that, in this week's game at Cairo pretty much amounts to a must-win game for Westover if they're to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. I mean, that's what happens live in the mentality if you're Westover, if you're the Westover Patriots and head coach Octavia Jones. I mean, you want to go 1-0 every single week over these final 3 games of the regular season. You see, basically, Westover need to win out and then hope for a lot of help. I do mean a lot of help. You see, both Hardaway and Carver Columbus are 2-2 in the region, and both Carver and Hardaway own ties over Westover, own the tiebreaker over Westover, thanks to their wins over the Patriots from Albany earlier this season. And Cairo can pretty much control, on the other hand, pretty much controls its own destiny after Westover. And Westover will hit the road after the Cairo game, and Westover will head back to Columbus again to face Shaw, and then regular season finale set for Friday, November 3rd against Northside Columbus. And north side of Columbus. And north side of Columbus, the Battle of Patriots at Hugh Stadium. So basically, Westover would need to run the table and then hope for a lot of help along the way, just to even back into the playoffs. And even there, I mean, it would be, I think they would be no worse than the number 4 seed, which would mean, of course, a first round trip to a number 1 seed somewhere, depending on how the brackets turn out. And what's left for Cairo after the Westover game this Friday, and they'll head up to Columbus to face Northside, and then home against Columbus High to close out the regular season. And wins in their final 2 games would obviously go a long way towards them locking up a playoff berth, maybe did some. And if it weren't for that loss to America Sumter, I mean, I guess which team would be on top right now? And yes, that's the America Sumter Panthers. And see, the Panthers started at 1-2 with a tough 20-18 loss at home to Crystal County. Dooley County, 33-14. And also won at Lee County, 49-14. They lost to Lee County, 49-14. And the loss to Crystal County came in the season opener on August 25th. And their only non-region win came against Dooley County on September 1st, Labor Day weekend. And then on September 8th, the Panthers fell at Lee County, 49-14. And then came region play. And the Panthers pitched a shutout over the Westover Patriots at Hugh Stadium, 21-0 on September 15th. And then upset a Northside Columbus team that come in undefeated, 21-17. Won at Cairo, won against Cairo at home, 31-15. And by the way, that was America Sumter's first ever win over Cairo in 6 tries. And bye week then last Friday the 13th, America Sumter shut out Shaw 31-0. And the Panthers have a short week to which to work with. And they'll head to Columbus on Thursday night, Thursday, October 19th, to take on the Hardaway Hawks. And then in a rare Saturday contest, the Panthers will go back to Columbus to take on Columbus High. And then the regular season wraps up for the home game against the Carver Tigers out of Columbus. So as long as bottom line is Westover, and as long as and America Sumter is basically in the same situation Lee County's in, went out, and you'll find yourself an undefeated and outright region champion going into the playoffs. And that's how the situation looks in GHSA Region 1 4A. How about in GHSA Region 1 AAA? And Cook sitting in first place all alone at 2-0 in the region, 3-4 overall. And hard to believe that the Hornets out of Adel, Georgia, have won 3 in a row after starting the season, losing 4 in a row. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And lost 4 in a row to the likes of Brooks County, undefeated, and 21-0. And then fell to Tift County, whose Blue Devils were undefeated until their loss to the Lowndes in the Region 170 opener for both teams last week, 51-38. And lost to a Brunswick team. That's 4-2. Coming off a tough loss to arch rival Glen Academy, 26-13 last week. And then after having games postponed or rescheduled due to effects of Hurricane Irma, the Hornets finally resumed action against Thomasville. And the Hornets gave the Bulldogs all they could handle before losing 40-34. And then on September 29th, the Hornets' winning streak began with a 49-13 rout of Early County. And then back-to-back road wins, 40-19 over Worth County. And that was after the Hornets trailed 13-0. But came back and held Worth County to just 6 points the rest of the way in that 21-point win. And last week, the Hornets overcame a double-digit deficit to edge Doherty at Hugh Stadium, 33-32, and a Thursday night contest, October 12th at Hugh Stadium. And they'll face a Crisp County team that started the region play off on the right foot at 1-0 overall and 5-1 in GHSA Region 1 AAA. And Crisp, in their game against Monroe last week, the Cougars jumped out to a quick 26-0 lead and left the Tornadoes from Albany to play catch-up the rest of the night in an eventual 50-26 win. And Crisp County bounced back quite nicely after that loss to Brooks County just 2 weeks ago on September 29th. So and it seemed like that loss didn't phase. It seemed like that loss to Brooks County didn't phase Crisp County all that much, if anything. And the loss to Brooks County, Class AAA team, losing to a Class AA team, and was the one thing that probably woke the Cougars up and just lit a fire under them. Now the Cougars will make the long trip down I-75 to Adel, Georgia, to face a Cook team. And obviously, it's been on fire since starting the season 0-4. And Cook reminds me of Colquitt County when they started the season. Cook from this year reminds me of Colquitt County from last year. And the Packers got off to such a rough start. Packers were coming off the second of back-to-back state championships in 2014, 2015. And Colquitt County really struggled, and I mean, just struggled. Started off 0-4, but then knocked off Brookwood, and then started off a swing of 6 straight wins to close out the regular season. Picked up a couple of more wins in state playoffs, and then finally losing in the quarterfinal round. Who knows? I mean, playing a game like playing a team like Crisp County might help Cook to get to 500 overall for the first time this season. So I mean, that should be a good game. And the winner of that game will have the inside track on the region championship. While the loser, more than likely, can either finish anywhere from as high as second place to as low as fourth place. So that proves just how much at stake there is in this contest. So in Crisp County and Cook should be a good matchup. And right in the middle of the pack, the Monroe Tornadoes from Albany split their first 2 region contests at 1 win and 1 loss in region play, 2-5 overall. And you see Monroe struggling yet again. And after a 2-6 season, which saw them go winless in JHSA Region 1 AAA action, the Tornadoes picked up their first region win back on October 6th, 29-19 win over Doherty at Human Stadium. And then of course they faced Crisp County last week, and Crisp County rolled to an easy victory, 50-26 last week. And Monroe will have another bye week, and that's their third when you count the fact that they didn't play on August 18th, the season opener. And then another bye in between losses to Thomas County Central and Brooks County. And then this is the third and final bye Monroe will have this season. And they definitely could use it because Monroe just really struggled against Crisp County. And then fell behind 26-0 at the end of the first quarter. And spent the rest of the evening trying to play catch up to no avail. And last week's 50-26 loss at home to Crisp County was also the final home game of the regular season for the Tornadoes. And if the Tornadoes hope to move up in the region standings, going to clinch a playoff berth, or at least move up in the region standings, they obviously have to beat Worth County on the 27th, and then go to Cook and try to leave the Hornets' nest down in Adel, Georgia, with a victory. And rounding out the GHSA Region 1 4A standings are the 1-7 Doherty Trojans from Albany and the 0-7 Worth County Rams out of Sylvester, Georgia. And Doherty comes into that game winless in region play at 0-2 and 1-7 overall. And Doherty's had its share of struggles. And right in front of me, and just look at in some of the close games they've been in and lost. And four of Doherty's 7 losses have come by 7 points or less. And 29-28 set back at Turner County to open the season, and then lost. Then after edging out Mitchell County 18-14, and the Trojans from Albany began a string of 6 straight losses, starting with a tough 14-7 loss to Berrien on September 3rd, 40-13 to Westover on September 8th, and then 26-13 to Spencer out of Columbus, in a game that was rescheduled. That was rescheduled due to the bad weather, and yet another game that was moved, and Doherty lost in that contest as well, as Perry pummeled Doherty 49-8. 49-8. October 6th, Doherty finally snapped actually Doherty's losing streak continued 6 in a row, as they fell to Monroe 29-19. Then last Thursday, October 12th, and then the Tornadoes gave Cook all they can handle, still fell short. And as hard as it might be to believe, Doherty has just 2 regular season games left, and home finale against Worth County, and then they go to and then they'll head up Georgia Highway 300 to Cordele to face Crisp County, and so it's an amazing time, an amazing portion of this high school football season, and breaking down the region races and the playoff picture, and having us in Worth County still yet to get win number 1 under new head coach Ben Simmons. And before you get to Worth County, one thing about Doherty, I think if they had won one or two of those close games, maybe even 3, I mean, a break here, break there, I think Worth County not only would be a 500 team, be at least 500 better, probably also undefeated in region play. Instead, however, Doherty's record is what it says it is: 1-7 overall, 0-2, winless in GHSA Region 1-4A. And then after a bye week, and then now we're going to move along to Worth County, and whose Rams are still looking for their first win under new head coach Ben Simmons. And Simmons sitting at 0-7 overall, 0-1 in GHSA Region 1-4A after the loss to Cook just a couple of weeks ago on Friday, October 6th. And Cook as mentioned earlier, Cook overcame a big deficit to win early 13-0 deficit, and it was tied at 19 at the half, and then it was all Hornets the rest of the way. I mean, winner of the Chris County Cook game not only will have sole possession of first place in GHSA Region 1 AAA, and the winner will also be in the driver's seat to win the region title, Region 1 AAA title. So, I mean, so much to say, so much at stake. I mean, so much to break down, so little time. And how about Worth County? And the rough go of it. I mean, and just when it seemed like Worth County was going to blow out Cook, And the Hornets had other ideas, rallying from that deficit to win 40-19, and then after a bye week, to lose 40-19. And Worth County lost 40-19, and after the bye week, and they'll be ready to face Doherty at Hugh Stadium, and yet another football Friday night in Southwest Georgia. And then and after Doherty, when the Rams host Monroe on October 27th, and then wrap up the regular season with a home game against Crisp County. And the 1AAA is such a rough region. It's just unbelievable. Outside of Crisp County, it's just unbelievable. Just how mediocre Region 1 AAA is. But it is what it is. You just line up and play the team that's in front of you, and just trying to come out with a victory. And having said that, and despite the combined 1-14 records in this week's Worth County Darty game, has the playoff type of atmosphere. The Worth County Rams know that and then not only do their playoff hope the winner for the winner of the Worth County Darty game, and they know that not only do their playoff hopes stay alive, I think no worse than the number 4 seed, Region 1 AAA. And got the Worth County Rams, where and hard to believe. 7, and yet with just one win, could make the playoffs. Same thing that happened to Darty last year. And Darty was just 2-6 all season. But Darty's just 2-6 last season. One of those 2 wins was to the Albany High squad. And of course, the Albany High squad that doesn't exist anymore. And for those people that are tuning into the High School Football Roundup podcast for the first time, Southwest Georgia Network and YouTube channel, the Doherty County School System Board of Education decision voted 4-3. Albany High effective immediately. Effective, when they say effective immediately, it's just that, effective immediately. Warnings and no year or so forth. The school, it means the school, when they say effective immediately, they do mean effective immediately. That would mean no more no more Albany High. No more Albany High. No more Albany High. A win came on October 8th, a Saturday night, 21-14 over Monroe. Despite the fact that they would lose 3 more games the regular season and then lose to Jenkins and Savannah in the first round of the playoffs. And Doherty, those 2 wins were enough to get Doherty in the having said that, And having said that, Doherty and Worth County, I have a lot on the line. Have a lot on the line. Winner will likely go home. Winner will more than likely loss, and the loser sitting at home come playoff time. Which the time is now 7:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, October 17th, 2017. To the High School Football Roundup podcast, Twitter Network, and also on YouTube, Southwest Georgia Network YouTube channel. Walter Johnson. Remember to follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter at SWGA Network. Also, find the link to the YouTube channel, and there, you'll find episodes of Football Roundup podcast, as well as those of the Midnight Blitz Scoreboard Show. There's Friday morning, just shortly after midnight, night action. Friday or Saturday, if you will, at midnight, right at the stroke of midnight or sometime thereafter. And GHSA Region 1 single A. No, that's not the one. In the GHSA Region 1 single A, the two teams to beat Bulls out of Camilla, Georgia, and the Pelham High School Hornets are just down the road in Pelham, Georgia. Both teams come in undefeated at 6-0, and they're 6-1 in GHSA Region 1 single A play. In Mitchell County, coming off a big win last week in Donaldsonville, Georgia, as the Eagles roll past Seminole County 35-8. And believe it or not, Mitchell County Eagles don't have to leave. Literally don't have to leave Mitchell County season. Here's why. It's host to Calhoun County. 27th. Eagles will welcome Baconton Charter Centennial Stadium. And then the season in Central winner take all battle for the GHSA Region 1 single A title of Centennial Stadium on Friday, November 3rd, as the Mitchell County Eagles take on the Pelham Hornets. I say potential because a lot on the line. Took another step towards the potential collision course contest with Pelham with that 35-8 rout over Seminole County. And came away with an even more impressive performance. And the Hornets rolled all over the Red Devils, 53-0, the final score. And unlike Mitchell County, season will end on the road, Saturday at home, but not before they play two more home games. Hornets play host to Stewart County this Friday, I should say. And they'll host Seminole County. Trip to Camilla to face Mitchell County. And then after you have Mitchell County and Pelham, and it just goes downhill from there. Chattahoochee County and Seminole County both sit at 4-2 overall. Region, I should say, overall. Chattahoochee County, Seminole County, both 4-2, and Region 1 Single A, 4-3 overall. 3-3 and 4-3. Charter, Randolph Clay, and Terrell County all set at 2-4 in the region. Bacon and Charter leading the way at 3-4. Randolph Clay and Terrell County both 2-5 overall. 1-5. Winless in region play at 0-6, 1-6 overall. And Batala Charter and Georgia playing a non-region schedule. Instead of just 1-5 on the season. And per Georgia High School Association rules, any team that plays a non-region schedule cannot be eligible for postseason play. Batala will sit out. Charter will sit out the which the top 24 teams of both the public and private school groups of Class Single A or subdivisions of Class Single A will advance to the state playoffs. And while I'm on the subject of Class Single A, brief GHSA Region 1-2 Single A, East Georgia, Irwin County, seed in Region 2 Single A, undefeated at 4-0 in the region, 6-1 overall. Charlton County, they both tied for second place, and it looks like Charlton has the tiebreaker so far. Charlton County comes in at 3-1 in the region, 5. Clinch County also 3-1 in the region, 5-2 overall. Clinch County has absolutely crushed Turner County down in Homerville, Georgia, right near the Okefenokee Swamp, 42-7. Not the rest of the GHSA Region 2 Single A standings. And just like in Region 1 Single A, a top 4 finish doesn't guarantee a playoff berth. Again, the 24 teams as ranked in the power rankings, and GHSA Class Single A Public School Subdivision will advance to the state playoffs. In Turner County, 4-3 overall. Terriffair County, 2-2 region, 3-4 overall. Jackson County, 1-3 in the region, and region Wilcox is at 2-5 overall, 6 overall. Lanier County looks out of Lakeland, Georgia, just northeast of Valdosta, coming winless at 0-4 in region play, 1-6 overall. And how about the GISA right now? And games involving how about some of the games and looking at the standings in GISA Region 3 AAA. And with Valiants out of Valdosta came to Albany and rolled all over the Deerfield Windsor Knights, 35-0. And the Knights could have moved one step closer to clinching no worse than a tie. Region 3 AAA title had they won, but unfortunately they did not. And now claim the region title and a possible number 1 seed in the GISA Class AAA state playoffs. And the the GISA regular season started way back on Friday, August 11th, 2017. Here we are, 17th in the week of Friday, October 20th. So, and then it all comes down to this. So it all comes down to this. And the region championship could very well be decided, or at least the seedings of 1, 2, 3, or 4, however, 4 teams out of GISA region, 3 AAA going into the state playoffs. Friday week, or the week of Friday, October 27th, it could very well determine which teams, which one team stays home. And I'm back with the High School Football Roundup podcast with your host, Walter Johnson. Don't forget to follow on Twitter at SWGA Network. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Link below the description on the Twitter page. Steve, and I was talking about GISA Region 3 AAA. Endings there. Raiders of Southland Academy. Americus, Georgia, 40 miles north of Albany. Season last week. The rolling past Brookwood out of Thomasville, Georgia. Final score 41-3. Southland all over Brookwood. And Southland finishes the regular season at 9-1 overall and 3-1 in GISA Region 3 AAA play. And their only loss coming to Deerfield Windsor back on September 29th in Albany. And with the regular season now being over, all Southland can do is just sit back. How things will play out among their fellow region foes. Would, thanks to their stunning shutout win over Deerfield Windsor, is at 2-1 in region play, 5-3 overall. With the regular season finale against Tift area left, and Deerfield Windsor with the loss to last week fell to 2-1 in GISA Region 3 AAA action and 5-4 overall. Area Academy sitting at 1-2 in the region overall, and Brookwood of Thomasville, 60 miles south of Albany, along US Highway 19, winless in region AAA play at 0-3. Wins as well as 4 wins and 4 losses overall. And I have to think out of those 5 schools, out of those 5 teams, have to believe appear to have a realistic chance of advancing to the playoffs. defeated Brookwood 34-26. October 29th. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was. And so what does this all mean for Deerfield Windsor after being absolutely vanquished by the Valwood Valiants last week? Even with that loss, Deerfield still has an outside chance of winning the region title, but going into the playoffs as the number 1 seed. For that to happen, however, it need to happen for the Knights. They have to go down to Brookwood and leave with a victory. Finish region play at 3-1 there, and then move into a tie with Southland. The first tiebreaker, of course. Anyone that is familiar that with knows first tiebreaker to break a tie. That first tiebreaker is head-to-head competition, and Deerfield easily wins there, and a 2-way tie. Deerfield were to beat Brookwood. Obviously, has to do its part. Go down to Brookwood and over the victory in the region play. And even there, the Knights would need some help to win that region title, win that tiebreaker in the process. And Valwood, the Tift area, and Tift area, and Tift area, the season ended right now. Number 4 seed out of SA Region 3 AAA. A road trip for the Panthers out of tiny Chula, Georgia. Tifton, Chula spelled Chula, Chula, Georgia, the home of the Tift Area Academy Panthers. So basically Deerfield. So it's just that simple. If they're to claim a region championship, and see Deerfield's won so many of them over the years, and as well as several state championships. Coming in 2012, and the second win over the Heritage School out of Noonan, Georgia. That was then. This is now. This year's region championship out of GISA Region 3 AAA. After on the road, and then Tift area would have to knock off Valwood to create a 2-way tie between Deerfield and Southland. A 17% win over Southland. Breaker. And here's one more scenario to consider if both Deerfield. So if Deerfield were to lose, were to lose through, and there would be a 3-way tie for second place in GISA Region 3 AAA. Had 2 wins and 2 losses in region play. And the head-to-head would be Needless, Deerfield, Windsor area, Valwood, and then Valwood beat Deerfield. And the tiebreakers cancel each other out. And then at that point, it would basically come down to region games. Well, exactly, they beat the tiebreaker. How they break the ties in the GISA. I'm thinking of scenario scenario, and points allowed, and common or even common opponents. Does it break the tie? Probably come down to a coin, likely come down to a coin toss. So many scenarios going into this final week of the regular season. And how about a look at some other GISA other races of interest here in Southwest, South Georgia, in GHSA Region 17A. Got Lowndes. It went over Tift County. Battle of undefeated teams. It's a game until pick six late. Gave the Vikings the 51-38 win to go to 1-0 in Region 17A, 8-0 overall. Colquitt County 1-0 in the region and 7-1 overall. Tift County 7-1, and Camden County drops to 0-1 region play and 3-4 overall after losing 27-6 to the Colquitt County Packers down in Kingsland, Georgia. One of the best game, one of the around the state, not just here in Southwest Georgia, South Georgia. It's Tift County and Colquitt County down in Moultrie, Georgia. Both teams are 7-1 overall. County is 1-0 in the region. And got off to an amazing start. And the Blue Devils had some close calls by 2 on the last second field goal against Coffee. And then beating the Parkview in a shutout the week before that. I mean, it's just getting right down to the nitty gritty. And also a brief look at a class in Region 15A. You see Warner Robins picking up the Harris County 34-8 at home, 2-0 in region play, and also remain undefeated at 8-0 overall. And then hard to believe, just a week before, Warner Robins trailed Thomas County Central 1-0 during the first half, but only to rally to win 30-28. Last week, though, the Demons had a much easier time against Harris County, to a 34-8 win, and the Demons get a much-deserved bye week before returning to action against Veterans and Warner Robins, and then for a potential winner-take-all showdown against Bainbridge. And the Bearcats won their region opener weeks ago. 6 against Veterans, 28-14 the final score. Down in Bainbridge, Georgia. And they're back at it this week, hosting Thomas County Central, then Harris County. Potential showdown for the Region 15A title against Warner Robins. And then following Warner Robins at 2-0 in region, 8-0 overall, and Bainbridge at 1-0 in region, 5-2 overall. They got the Thomas County Central Yellow Jackets. After that, two Warner Robins bounced back quite nicely, but a 34-14 win over Veterans. Yellow Jackets have another critical test this week at Bainbridge to go to 2-1 in region play, going into their bye week. Yellow Jackets will wrap up the regular season up in Hamilton, Georgia, sandwiched right between LaGrange and Columbus along Interstate 185 or I-185, and taking on the Harris County Tigers. And you get the finally a look at GHSA Region 1. And Thomasville right now is in the driver's seat. 5 teams there. And there were 6 teams last year, but of course, high school, thanks to that 4-3 decision, school board back on June 6th of this year, Phil leads at 2-0 and at 7-0 overall. Bulldogs have outscored their opponents 100. And the Bulldogs have barely allowed 100 points so far. And last week, Phil's dominance continued with a 38-10 rout of Early County. And this week, the Bulldogs step out of region play. And Childs out of Tallahassee, Florida. This is the first ever meeting between the 2 teams, as far as I know. Just across the state line, in Tallahassee, Florida, roughly 35 to 40 miles apart along U.S. Highway 319. Fun fact, when you travel on U.S. Highway 319, the first road later, once you get into Florida, 12. And if you're ever traveled to states like Florida or Alabama, and you'll see those county road signs in navy or royal blue, and the funny rectangle pentagon shape in yellow with yellow letters and numbers. I don't know if there's any trim around those yellow letters and numbers, but Thomasville against Lawton Childs out of Tallahassee, Florida. Border war this week. Thomasville, Quitman, Georgia on the 27th to take on Brooks County. Showdown and potential showdown play title. And speaking of those Trojans from Quitman, Georgia, and they had last week off after trouncing Early County in a shutout, 49-0. And the Trojans return to action this week, taking on Fitzgerald Purple Hurricanes. And her Purple Hurricane had a rough first season under Pruitt of Coffee head coach Robbie Pruitt. Sweet though, Purple Hurricanes got in the win column to open the GHSA Region 1AA play after blasting Berrien down in Nashville, Georgia, 35-7, the final score. Gerald will face Brooks County this week. And, while Lawton Childs out of Tallahassee, Florida, potential trap games for both teams and advance to their their showdown for the region crown. 7th. And Thomasville is 2-0 region play, 7-0 overall, followed by Brooks County, 1-0 in the region, and Brooks is 6-0 overall, and Fitzgerald 3-4 overall, and Berrien 4-4 overall in Early County. winless in Region 1AA action at 0-3, 2-6 overall. Bobcats out of Blakely, Georgia are off this week. Traveling to Fitzgerald. Likely be their last chance to sneak into the playoffs. Wrap up the regular season at home on Friday, November 3rd. Taking on Dauphin High School out of Alabama. So kind of a bookend game for Early, an obvious bookend game for Early County. Open the season on August 25th against Eufaula, Alabama, and a closer the season a team in Dothan, Alabama. So basically, barring some crazy scenario, you say Early County, the Fitzgerald, and they knock off the Purple Hurricanes. Get some serious help along the way, and then Early County could somehow sneak into the playoffs, but it's looking very unlikely at this point. Note that's going to end this edition of the High School Football Roundup podcast for 17th, 2017. Don't forget the scoreboard show and at 1 a.m. Friday. Well, actually, in the early hours of that Saturday, October 21st. And remember, you can follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter, WGA Network. Follow the Southwest Georgia Network on Twitter, WGA Network. And if you do that, you can tweets high school football action in the Southwest Georgia Network coverage area, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel for the live broadcast of the High School Football Roundup podcast, as well as the Midnight Blitz Scoreboard Show podcast. Do it to the High School Football Roundup podcast. Everybody,